Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm. This is Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and bestie and senior director from the Bhakti Center, senior educator of the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to our show. This is our Srimad Bhagavatam show, where we have things happening with the Srimad Bhagavatam that have never happened maybe historically ever in a Srimad Bhagavatam class, like Zoom boomers. Some people boomed our Zoom right before the class. That's never happened. We should have invested in stock in Zoom, and we'd all be set right now. How are you, Kaustubha?
I'm doing good.
I've been going for long bike rides every day, and it's really phenomenal. I discovered a waterfall. Discovered just this waterfall like 10 minutes away from my house. Never knew it was there.
Did you dip into it?
I didn't dip in, but I went back with my kids and explored it, climbed it, found a little cave. It was great.
Cave as well.
Cave in a water. It's like Govardhan Hill.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. We're in a great part in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you're new to this is where we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of the ancient Vedic canon of literature, talking about excavating the spirit soul, who's been covered by layers and layers and layers of material energy, to the point where we forget our identity. And when we forget our identity, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to be happy in this material world. We chase after mirages, thinking that will fulfill us, and sort of acts as sort of a guiding light, a compass, a GPS, so to speak, in a sort of very confusing world. A lot of us are into the yoga community or yoga teachers, and it's nice to find some like authoritative source of yoga that's not just about a workout, another type of workout, like what's the latest workouts now?
You would probably
step aerobics, perhaps. Okay. Is that still going? Step aerobics. Step aerobics. Ab hour with Raghunath. Anyway, we're going to dive right in here. Kaustubha, how's New York doing? Still doing your ritual scream out the window at 7 p.m.?
Everybody's doing that. It's getting louder every day. People are bringing all kind of instruments, which reminds me that this Friday, we will likely host a special guest here. And he's a friend of ours going way back. His name's Ganesham Das.
Oh,
and Ganesham is a person who, he kind of was like trained up as a monk at the Bhakti Center I think he lived as a monk nearly 10 years or so. And currently he serves as a chaplain at New York Presbyterian Hospital. And what it really means is he counsels people, especially people that are dying and the families of people that are dying. And that's what he does, that's his profession. But especially now, he's basically every day dealing with people who are dying from coronavirus and their families.
Wow.
And so he's just a great guy. He's like, when it comes to Bhagavatam, he's, really deep in his understanding of Bhagavatam. He's like one of the most peaceful minded people I know, learned in the Shastra, really good hearted guy. And
let's get him on.
And we'll get him on. And, he always has all kind of fascinating stories to tell just about his work in general, but especially now. He's putting his own, self in danger by working in the hospitals every day and counseling these people. And a lot of these people, were dying alone, and he's there to counsel them. So we look forward to having him on here Friday morning.
Well, he came up and did a retreat with me, our Madaram retreat that we usually do annually. And it was great having him. I've never did a program with him before, or even really got to know him that well. And it was great. And he had so many great, I tell you, when you're dealing in a place like a hospital, and a lot of you people are like Zoe and people, Eric Noble, who are on Zoom right now, you know, they've dealt with emergency situations or places where, you know, hospital, there's always some tragedy going on. And when you're dealing with that on a regular basis, you get some realization about how quick life is, about how tragic it can be in a moment. And truthfully, it's that type of sharpness of mind. And you have to call forth things like compassion and tolerance, because people are not in their right minds oftentimes. They blend really well with the spiritual life and a spiritual vision. Otherwise, you sit like me in my big illusion, like, oh, I'm going for another bike ride. Whoa! These guys are so sharp, and they understand like life is short. Life can turn around quickly. Where's your head at? And it's very sobering. Especially in the West, we do an excellent job of covering up, you know, sickness, disease, and death. You know, you don't see death. It's sort of kept out of our vision. And therefore we just think life is okay. Even if there's a tragic car accident, the whole thing is swept up. You don't even know what happened an hour later. And sometimes you go, like in India, you see death. You see people leave their body. You see a body burning. You know, I think I've witnessed more deaths, perhaps in India. And it's very sobering. To go to a funeral pyre with a family or with a community and watch a body burn. It's like, it makes you realize like, oh, I get it. I've got a body too. This is what they're going to do to my body. And so when he did this retreat with us, Ganesham, he just had such deep realizations, witnessing and being with people at the time of death. And it was actually sobering and very beautiful. So it was a great idea to get him on the show. Good morning.
We want to have more regular interviews, you know, like we've been doing questions and answers once a week. And we've been thinking about maybe once every week or two to try to bring on a special guest and hear from them. And he's a great guy all around, but really, particularly, you know, with the current circumstances, he'll be fascinating to hear from, I think.
That's great. Yeah. And then every Wednesday, we're going to have arranged marriage day. So if you're single and looking to be married to someone you don't know, we can take care of that for you. All right, let's go on.
Okay. Hey, you know, are you able to disable the chat?
Disable the chat?
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think the chat.
No, it's not.
It's not going good. It's got. Everyone's just chanting the Maha Mantra. That's it.
No, they're not, Raghunath.
Oh, they're not?
Yeah.
Am I missing something? Chat is out of control. It looks like a lot of Maha Mantra. I think I must have missed it. Oh, it's too bad. I love that. I love that out of control boomer chat board. I think you can just take it away from your screen. It's too bad. Unmute chat. Let's see. Maybe I can do the chat.
You disabled the chat.
I can just close the chat.
Yeah, close it down.
Close the chat. But that, I don't know if you, let me know if you can see the chat anymore. I closed it. Does that work?
It may have. I'm not sure, but no, it's still going.
Anyway, I think we're just going to go. I think we're just, I think we're just going to keep going with our podcast and let the Zoom boomers do their thing.
It's not the boomer, it's a bomber.
It's a Zoom bomber.
Yeah.
Oh, I like boomer. I think it's more.
In any case, if you can't disable them, we'll just forget them. We'll go on.
Okay. I can't disable them. Let them go. All right. So we're in a cool place in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Canto 1, Chapter 9. I think it's text 22. Or no, I might have jumped ahead to 22. Jesus, what did I do? This.
I think you could start with 19.
Okay. I read ahead and then I forget to put it back at where I left off. Let's start with our invocation. Narayanam namaskritya naram shaiva narottamam devyam saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which are our very means of conquest, one should offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. I missed one, didn't I?
Saraswati, the
And Mother
goddess of learning.
Saraswati, the goddess of learning. You know why? Because all these chat things aren't coming up, but it's coming under the chat icon like this.
Everyone just cover your chat icon. You won't see it, and then we'll be done
Okay.
with it.
Okay. Sorry about that. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in class in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the transcendent Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurundivatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're diving in. O King, Lord Shiva, Narada, the great sage amongst the demigods, and Kapila, the incarnation of Godhead, all know very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Buddhas, or persons who know the glories of the Lord in different transcendental loving services. As the Lord has innumerable expansions of his plenary form, there are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord who are engaged in the exchange of service of different humors. We don't use that word much in America, humor.
Humors, yeah.
Except for good humor. Ordinarily, there are 12 great devotees of the Lord. Here we go again.
Yep.
Brahma, Narada, Shiva, the four Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Bhishma, Janak, Sukadeva Goswami, Bali Maharaj, and Yamaraj. Bhishma Dev, although one of them, has mentioned only 3 important names of the 12 who know the glories of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the great acharyas in the modern age, explains Anubhav, or the glory of the Lord, is first appreciated by the devotee in ecstasy, manifesting the symptoms of perspiring, trembling, weeping, and bodily eruptions. What? Which are further enhanced by steady understanding of the glories of the Lord. Such different...
each one of these terms is like, it's referring to something very specific. And you can understand that by reading books like the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Srila Prabhupada, he translated it as the Nectar of Devotion. But like when it says steady understanding of the glories of the Lord, that's he's referring to what's called sthayi bhāva. It means that there's an ecstasy that one has in their connection with God by understanding my steady relationship with them. And that's in a specific way, like I am Krishna's friend, or I am Krishna's lover. You know, that's steady and doesn't change. And then the anubhavas are different experiences that one would have that are consistent with that. Like, and that could manifest in involuntary bodily symptoms, like hair standing on end, like, you know, I get goosebumps, you know. And then there would be something that there would be different things that would trigger that feeling, like in a friend of Krishna than say in a lover of Krishna. All right. And those are called udipana. So there's a whole science of this.
Question, Kaustubha.
Yeah.
When is this in our future?
Yes, it is. It's coming soon for you, Raghu.
Like, when do we expect these? Like, give us a timeline. Like, when can I expect like ecstatic symptoms? Like, it's spoken about. I've heard about them. Are they in the pipeline in this lifetime? Can we who are not so evolved get these ecstatic symptoms? Tell me more.
I think you may have them by the time that the song plays at the end of the show, Raghu. But good. You know, a devotee, we feel ourselves. So just to be more clear, let's just be a bit more clear. It's describing that on very high levels of one's development in bhakti. That, well, it's described that one achieves this stage called bhāva, wherein they say it's like a ray of light has shined onto your heart, and the sprout of true love of God begins to appear. And then in that state, one begins to experience different deep emotions. That it's called the premankura. It's like the sprout of prema. It's the beginning of prema, the very goal of all life and all of yoga, of pure love of God. And that manifests in all kind, like there's mixing of varieties of love and experiences of love. And that can manifest in different moods that one has towards God, different relationships, and then that'll also manifest in different kind of bodily symptoms that one have in states of ecstasy. So Raghunath's asking, well, when does it come? I've been reading about this for a while, and I would like to, I'm waiting for it. Well, of course, it could happen in a moment, or it could take many, many lifetimes. And that's why, because this one person who's been asked, who's asked this question, I forget his name, but it was something like Tristan or something on here. Tristram. And he was asking, and I think we need to take this question, but his question was something like, how can one fully surrender to God, or what does that mean? And that's really what we need to do. When we fully let go, when we have complete faith, and when we completely lose our attraction or our dependence to the things of this world, then that world is going to open up to us, and all of that can happen quite quickly. So is it going to happen in this life? Is it going to happen in another life? It really depends on us.
That's a good answer.
Okay.
It brings it back to personal responsibility, like everything else.
Yeah. Sometimes that's examples given. It's like someone's holding onto a tree and they'll say, let go of me, but you're the one that's holding onto the tree. It's like, the whole thing is absurd. If we saw a person with their arms wrapped around the tree and they're yelling at the tree to please let go of me, we have to learn to let go. And just that steady reading of Bhagavatam is kind of what it'll help get us, help establish and maintain and deepen that realization, where what seems maybe impossible to us now, maybe like it seems like too far out of reach, it'll become more and more real. It'll become more and more possible, I think. And then Krishna will move our lives in certain ways that we could never expect, which he's kind of doing to all of us right now, kind of doing on a global level right now. It's kind of shifting our circumstance so that realization will deepen. I think you're real close, Raghunath. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, it's just, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, can I continue with the purport?
Please continue, yeah.
You feeling that? Okay.
Such different understandings.
Thank you. Such different understandings of bhavas are exchanged between Yashoda and the Lord, binding the Lord with ropes, and in the chariot driving by the Lord in exchange of love with Arjuna.
So those are two varieties of love there. One is Yashoda loves Krishna as a mother. Arjuna loves Krishna as a friend, or even here Krishna's like serving his friend as a chariot driver.
These glories of the Lord are exhibited in his being, subordinated before his devotees. And that is another feature of the glories of the Lord. Sukadeva Goswami and the Kumaras, although situated in the transcendental position, became converted by another feature of bhava and turned into pure devotees of the Lord. Tribulations imposed upon the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhava.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Tribulations imposed upon the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhava between the Lord and the devotees. The Lord says, I put my devotees into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhava with me. Placing the devotee into material troubles means delivering them from the illusory material relations. See, this is actually beautiful, because in a material consciousness, there's just good and bad. And in spiritual consciousness, we see that every sort of thing that's appearing bad is meant to bring me higher and higher and higher and higher. When we stop masking our pain with some type of medication, so to speak, when we stop medicating the pain and we just have that pain, it starts to shed the things that I've been holding on to that, I guess is a repeated theme. The things that I was holding on to that I was taking shelter of that weren't actually helping me. You know, I told the story before. I had some clients that I was, wonderful clients of mine that I was leading them through a cleanse or a fast, and great people, successful people, but they were overweight. They were dealing with, they were just all overweight, and they sort of neglected their body, and they wanted to jumpstart and get into a yoga practice. And I know they went through a lot of hell in their life. They were Jews that came from Iran, and they suffered a lot living in Iran. And the wife told me, you got to take my husband off this cleanse. I've never seen this man cry, and he cries every day. I think it's screwing him up. And the idea is, when I don't have food to shove in my mouth, and I'm off media, and I'm having some quiet time, and I'm not in my busyness of the day, then all I'm left with is emotions. And so we suppress them by shoving. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling tired. That emotion comes up, and I put a donut in my mouth. Emotion goes away. So I've been medicating my whole life with food, with sex, with intoxication. So I don't have to feel that pinch, that squeeze that the day gave me. And therefore, I just bury these emotions. So in our bhakti, it sort of takes us away from that pain, and all we are left to do is sit with that. And in the sitting with that, in the rising, just like when you make ghee, that's the Vedic analogy. When you make ghee, the impurities come to the surface. It will come out in crying or being upset or feeling that pain again. And it's bringing us to this real self, this real jewel that's been caked over, by layers and layers of pain and illusion, etc. I got a little distracted because this chat board. I'm gonna actually
Just take your window.
I'm gonna put a
bring
book.
it down
I'm
so
gonna put
that
a
it's
book
covered.
over it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna put the Garga Samhita right over that chat board.
There you go. So this commentary is so deep that I feel like I'm just penetrating just the surface of it, But it's mentioning here, first of all, Srila Prabhupada, he's alluding to verse 1. He says, tribulations imposed upon the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhāva between the Lord and the devotees. So bhāva here is referring to those feelings or those transcendental emotions. And he's referring to a famous verse in Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada liked to quote a lot, Yasyaham anugrinami harisye taddanam shanai, that Krishna is saying that when I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive them of everything. I take everything away from them. And
when I especially, let's say that again. When I especially, what is it?
When I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive them of everything, right? I take everything away from them. He's called Hari because he takes everything away from them.
Isn't that interesting? That's the translation of the word Hari, one who takes away. It's not like a thief, or the Lord, but it means the thief. So he takes things away. Has anybody felt like that? Like, I'm losing everything here. In a material, it makes no material sense that I'm losing everything and I'm supposed to be joyful for that. For a devotee, they are, because there's no other shelter. This is where our band got the name Shelter. It means that you're the only shelter. I've taken shelter from so many things that have sort of like masked that pain. There's nothing else. It's very interesting that the beautiful destitution that keeps coming up again in the Bhagavatam. And you think the destitute, well, they must be homeless. They must have some mental illness. They must not have their life together. No. Kings, queens, great sages, heroes, right? Yudhishthir's a hero. He's an emperor. Bhishma Dev is like the general. He's like the most glorious. Draupadi, she was a queen. We're only in the first canto, and look at the all stars that are going through so much pain.
He goes on here, like, you see, Srila Prabhupada's translating that verse in particular. He's alluding to that verse. So he says in this fascinatingly composed sentence, tribulations imposed upon the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhava between the Lord and the devotee. The Lord says, I put my devotee into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhava with me. You know, he intensifies the circumstances in which the emotions that we feel toward him, you know, will also intensify accordingly. He says, placing my devotee into material troubles means delivering him from the illusory material relations. The material relations are based on reciprocation of material enjoyment, which depends mainly on material resources. Therefore, when material resources are withdrawn by the Lord, the devotee is 10% attracted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It's just a simple logic there, you know.
Mm.
Thus the Lord snatches the fallen soul from the mire of material existence. Tribulations offered by the Lord to his devotee are different from the tribulations resulting from vicious actions. This isn't karma, right?
Right.
For the devotee, it's not, this isn't the reactions to cruel things that I've done in the past. That's not why I'm losing everything.
It's not Mercury in retrograde. That's not happening. That's not happening to me.
Even if it coincides with Mercury in retrograde, it's about something else.
You know, that's what I've heard. I've heard that your karma that doesn't necessarily can change because of Vishnu, of course, is above the gunas. It's above astrology. It's above Mercury in retrograde. But also Vishnu can use your karma for purification.
Yes. Specific, like very purposefully, very, you know, directly and with direct intent. And then Prabhupada goes on, all these glories of the Lord are especially known to great Mahajanas like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Kapila, Kumar, and now Bhishma, as mentioned above, and one is able to grasp it by their grace. So Bhishma is helping Yudhishthira understand this. Yudhishthira, you're going through hell right now. I get it. But don't you understand that Krishna is just drawing you nearer to him, you know, through this? Understand it that way.
Hmm.
And I thought it was just great how earlier in the commentary, he mentions these two, he mentions two bhavas, two sthayi bhavas that are kind of mentioned here. One is the maternal love of Yashoda that she has for Krishna. And then the other is the love of friendship that Krishna shows with Arjuna. And in both of these, Krishna becomes subordinate to his devotee, right? Krishna becomes tied, literally tied, bound by his mother, right? And Krishna becomes a charioteer of Arjuna. And Prabhupada, you see, the word anubhava is used in the translation here, asya anubhavam, and it's translated as the glories of the Lord. But Prabhupada's indicating that when Krishna subordinates himself to the devotee out of love, that's really the greatest glory, you know, that's just this greatest glory of the Lord, that he's moved by bhakti, that he's moved by love. And so that's kind of being highlighted here. So just as the devotee may have these involuntary symptoms out of love for God, my hair stands on end, my voice becomes choked up. Similarly, Krishna, you know, becomes controlled by the love of the devotee. It may happen one way with his mother, it happens another way with his friend, it'll happen another way with his lover, it'll happen in different ways. Anubhavas.
Okay. 20?
Text 20.
Okay. O king, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, your well-wisher, your counselor, your messenger, your benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
Yeah.
By the way, Kaustubha, I'm doing Sweet Baby Krishna tonight. I just forgot to announce it.
Okay.
If you're a Patreon member, tonight, 7 p.m., we do Pastimes of Krishna. It's a very sweet way to wind down the evening. So I've been trying to do them like every other day. And it's if you're not on that Patreon account, it's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. and join us there. We've been posting up extracurricular fun stuff. We have a great online community there, with recipes and what's going on?
Music, recipes, questions and answers.
But yeah, it's really nice. I'm really happy we did that. Okay.
So Bhishma is saying this Krishna, he's telling you that how to understand this. Understand he's not an ordinary person, even though he acts as your friend, as your well-wisher, as your chariot. It mentions here charioteer, although somehow that didn't make it into the translation. But the last word was saratim, that he becomes your charioteer as well. But don't make the mistake thinking that he's an ordinary person. He's whatever he says to you, you should understand to be absolute truth.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the next verse.
Yeah.
Prabhu. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone, and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equibalanced. Want to do this purport?
Please, this entire purport is like, this again is like a super deep purport.
Okay. Because he is absolute, there is nothing different from him. He is Kaivalya. There is nothing except him. What's the regular definition of Kaivalya?
You know, literally, it's escaping me right now, but
it's like an impersonal liberation.
Well, generally, yeah, like it refers to kind of like a state of samadhi, a state of. I know it certainly refers to being free from the influence of the modes of material nature, like beyond everything. But it would be interesting to know the.
Usually, it's a word used by impersonalists, Kaivalya.
Yeah.
Right. But Prabhupada's using it here is he is Kaivalya. There is nothing except himself. That's a nice way to look at it. There's nothing except himself. Everything and everyone is the manifestation of his energy, and thus he is present everywhere by his energy, being non-different from it. The sun is identified with every inch of the sun rays and every molecular particle of the rays. Similarly, the Lord is distributed by his different energies. He is the supersoul, present in everyone as the supreme guidance. And therefore, he is already the chariot driver and counsel of all living beings. Let me ask you a question, Kaustubha.
Yes.
Would you call the supersoul the same as a gut feeling? Is that the supersoul? I have a gut feeling. I have deep intuition about this. Is that the super soul speaking? How do you know it's the super soul and it's not my fear speaking or my lust speaking or my greed? How do I know if it is the super soul, and how often is the super soul directing us?
Well, you know, that was what we spoke about yesterday in some depth, right? That like there's the Chaitya Guru, which is the super soul, the guru within. But we're not so well attuned to understanding whether we're hearing from that or we're hearing the dictations of our mind and our senses. And so whether our gut feeling is one or the other, we may not be so attuned to understand. Therefore, there's the guru without as well. There's Guru Sadhu and Shastra. There's that internal guru, but we're not so confident in our ability to understand that. But in any case, that the Paramatma is in one sense always guiding us, but it's just that we're not listening very much.
It's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
It's like a radio channel that's in the room, but unless I have that receiver, I'm not listening.
Yeah.
And that's the real evolution of the yogi. It's almost like we are, this is my realization about that. It's almost like what, we have these yamas and niyamas, appropriate actions, inappropriate actions. When we're doing them without any, it's almost like we're walking with crutches until we don't need those crutches any longer. When we don't need those crutches, we're acting how the super soul, the Shastra tells us how to behave, because it's sort of guiding us what normal is. But actually, eventually, those crutches will fall away, and we're just being directed by the super soul. But until then, we have this directions of the soul. It's almost our natural, it's our natural state, that guidance to listen, to hear. But because there's so much other noise in my head, I've been getting guided by all my desires.
And how do we, and so, this is my understanding of the practice of bhakti too, is that how will I get switched from the one channel to the other, right? Because the dictation of my senses and my mind is so strong, right? How will I get switched off of that? How will I stop being distracted by that and tune into the other station over here, which is the Paramatma station? Now, we quoted from the Gita 6th chapter yesterday, how when the mind is conquered, the Paramatma is already reached. But how do I actually get there? And of course, the practices that we do are important. And like you're always saying, hey, be very careful what you consume, right? What you bring into your mind is going to make it either easier or more difficult. But I also think that this is really where intense prayer comes in. That on a daily basis, when one starts to get, a little desperate, I've had enough of being dictated to by my mind and senses. I don't want that anymore. And then one begins to pray, not just occasionally, but like daily, and that daily will even become like more regularly, dear Paramatma in my heart, I want to hear you, right? I'm weak and I'm stuck on this other station over here, and I want to hear your dictation. I want to hear you speaking to me, and not my mind and senses. Please, connect with me. Please, bring my attention and my mind always to you. And if we beg for that enough, it will surely come.
My best japa is done in times of desperation. Yeah. Intermixed with personal, heartfelt prayer. Sometimes when things are going too smooth, my japa becomes very perfunctory, very just almost duty bound, but with less emotion.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that.
We have to get to that point where we're a little disgusted with our own level of consciousness.
Right. Well, that's easy.
No, we're telling you, we tend to wallow in our lower consciousness even, we have to become like, I have had enough of this. I really have had enough. I don't want this anymore. And Krishna will take everything away. He'll take that away too. He'll take away our lower consciousness. Please, the devotees pray to Lord Hari, please take away my material desires. Please take away that weakness that I have to always be following the dictation of the mind and senses. I want to hear nothing. Krishna will say at the end of
what happened? You muted Kaustubha.
I think I muted him. Right here.
No, he's been muted.
Okay. Krishna will say at the end of the Gita that I'm situated in everyone's heart. Is that he'll say that the Paramatma is in everyone's heart. Surrender unto him utterly, O Arjuna. Right. Just connect with that God within the heart. Yeah. And then he says, and I'll take care of everything, Sarvadharma Prajaja, and then you can just surrender entirely unto me.
Where did we leave off in the purport? Because I really wanted to keep finishing.
I think we finished the purport.
Okay.
Oh no, maybe we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so it says he's Paramatma, or super soul, present in everyone as the supreme guidance, and therefore he is already the chariot driver and the counsel of all living beings. That's a great way of putting it.
When he therefore exhibits himself as a chariot driver of Arjuna, there's no change in this exalted position. It is the power of bhakti only that demonstrates him as the chariot driver or the messenger, since he has nothing to do with the material conception of life, because he is the absolute spiritual identity. There is for him no superior or inferior action. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he has no false ego, and so he does not identify himself with anything different from him. The material conception of ego is equibalanced in him. He does not feel, therefore, inferior by becoming the chariot driver of his pure devotee. It is the glory of the pure devotee that only he can bring about the service from the affectionate Lord.
It's fascinating, right?
it's a cool concept that Krishna wants to be the servant of Arjuna, that he wants to drive Arjuna around. It's like a very lowly position. He's like a Uber driver, or it's a simple position. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Have a great flight. See you later. You know what I mean? It's like he's playing this very, very humble role just to please Arjuna.
He's Prabhupada says in the commentary, when he therefore exhibits himself as a chariot, he says that he's the chariot driver of everyone because he's in everyone's heart. So in one sense, he's already the servant of everyone, right? He says, when he therefore exhibits himself as a chariot driver of Arjuna, there's no change in his exalted position. It's not like he's now become a menial servant. He's been serving all along as a charioteer in the heart. But then he says, it is the power of devotional service only that demonstrates him as a chariot. I would say maybe like the word could have been reveals him as a chariot driver or messenger. So because, in other words, Krishna's there to drive all of our chariots all the time. But Arjuna's devotion is so deep that it manifests externally. You can see it. Now he's externally become the chariot driver.
Okay, let's do 22. Yet despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life. For I am his unflinching servitor. How beautiful, huh?
This is where Bhishma's prayers just get really, really beautiful. And
Yeah,
Prabhupada's
despite his
commentaries.
being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I'm ending my life. For I am his unflinching servitor. You want to read the purport?
The Supreme Lord, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, although equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee, who is completely surrendered and who knows no one as his protector, no one else as his protector or master. Having unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy. And here comes a counterintuitive idea. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in a condition of absolute dependence. Right?
Ooh, it's like everything we hate in America is like dependent. I'm not dependent on anybody.
Yeah. It's sometimes this word dependence is used in relation to drug use. Like someone's become substance dependent or drug dependent, and that's defined that when you stop using the drug, you experience like withdrawal symptoms.
Right.
Then it's called like you have substance dependence or drug dependence.
Sugar dependence, food dependent,
Yeah.
so many things that are controlling us.
Yeah, and so by nature we have Krishna dependence. And if
it's the original dependence.
It's the original dependence. And if we disconnect, if we don't get any more, then we feel symptoms of withdrawal.
Right.
And that's the depression, that's the disconnection, that's the, sufferings of this material world. That's our withdrawal, because by nature we're dependent on Krishna. As soon as we disconnect ourselves, we feel the withdrawal. But we think ourselves independent. It's such a total illusion. Like I'm in New York City right now, right?
Right.
Now, right now, in one sense, the whole world is getting a little taste of our dependence. But like right now, like the mayor and the governors of New York, they're becoming a little concerned that, hey, New York City, if we're not careful, we could have trouble getting food to New York City, right? All the lines are breaking down, And so we think I'm independent, but without any, I would become completely helpless to get food if it all just shut down. The most simple thing, right?
Got to come up to Super Soul, grow some food, brother.
But even then, like we're still dependent, right? Like if something goes wrong with the weather, we can't grow food.
Right.
And that happens to people too,
Yes, we got to worship the demigods. Is this where we're going with all this? We got to worship the demigods?
The point is, it's like, well, that goes back to that analogy that I always use. If you ask a child, where do you get your food? I'm independent. I get it myself. I go to the refrigerator and I open it. No, your realization of your dependence is so minuscule that you're walking around in a state of ignorance. Your parents are putting the food. You're dependent on your parents for that food. You're not getting yourself.
Sure.
And so even the simplest things in life, we're completely dependent on, and we walk around trying to bolster this idea that I'm independent. We're not even close to it. So if we can recognize that dependence, then we can connect, and it's saying we can be most happy, right? Most happy.
If anyone's got a teenager, mine are different because I've got good teenagers, but if anyone's got a teenager, sometimes the teenager can drive. So they feel like, yeah, I'm driving the car. It's my car. But you didn't pay for the insurance. You didn't pay for the car. You're not even paying for the gas. You're not paying for the food when you get home from the gas. But you feel yourself completely, now I'm big. And so with that sort of independence, you become a little haughty, a little snippy, a little, what's the word we use? Sassy, a little sassy,
A little sassy,
a little frassy. So that arrogance comes with that concept of like, yeah, I'm doing it. And we're just not. And so it's very beautiful and very humbling when we get to this stage of vulnerability where we're just like, Krishna, it's actually you. And the real magic, the real alchemist can actually have a lot of stuff, but actually always feel at every moment, Krishna, all this stuff is you. All this stuff is yours. Even my ability is yours. That's the deep realization. And this is, forget all these like Lakshmi mantras, and you have to become so evolved to have stuff and to not really understand that it's yours, and use the stuff, not like renounce the stuff, use the stuff in a great way. But you got to be able to let it go first. You're not going to get it unless you're willing to let it go. That's what I found with a lot of people coming to Bhakti, and my own life, is you have to actually be like, I'm actually over this. And when you're actually over it, then Krishna will give it to you back. And then because he understands, like, you know how to handle it, just like handling fireworks or handling a weapon. You got to go through the training. You can't just pick up. If your parent loves you, they're not just going to give a child a gun, or you're not going to let the kid use fireworks if you feel like it's going to blow off their hand. But when a person's trained in how to deal with any potentially dangerous energy, like electricity, if they're trained how to deal with it, then electricity can be a useful thing. We're sort of like untrained, and we're getting zapped on a regular basis.
This commentary continues. It says the opposite tendency of recognizing our dependence is the cause of fall down. The living entity has this tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. Now he uses this word, the root cause. The root cause of all troubles is there in false egotism, misidentifying myself. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. We're like the leaf to the tree. The leaf can think, I'm independent, but if it disconnects itself, it dries up. And so Krishna is always saying, what is it? Nitya yuktasya, right? That always be connected to me. Stay connected. Ananya cheta satatam. That verse, Nitya yuktasya yoginaha. Be connected in yoga. Be always connected. Nitya yuktasya. Always yuktasya. Yukta is like the root of the word yoga, to unite. So nitya yuktasya, always be connected, always be united with me in yoga. This is the basic teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. So like the leaf to the tree, when we stay connected, we're healthy. As soon as we break off, we dry up.
I don't want to dry up, Prabhu.
All right. I hope that our friendly bombers have gotten a little something from the hearing today.
I think maybe something will land. You never know. Some of the people I've seen get serious about Bhakti is the people who have hated Bhakti. They've hated Bhakti, and it's almost like Kamsa is meditating on Krishna all the time. We can talk. Maybe we should read the story about Kamsa today. Anyway, we're going to hopefully figure out our bombers or our boomers, whatever they're called. We're going to love bomb them.
Love bomb the bombers.
Anyway, we're going to get Mara on this. She's a technical genius from all her years and years of study at private school. I really missed that chat board though. I'm sorry that it was hijacked. But it was great to see everybody. And those who joined us late, this is our first time we've ever been hijacked by Zoom boomers.
Bombers.
Zone bombers, thank you. And it's
They were
great.
calling us boomers, but actually we're Gen Xers. They don't even know.
They don't even know. I want to say thanks to everybody who joined us late on Zoom, including UD, Michael Schwepp, Dr. Michael Schwepp. Anybody else I missed here? See, I've only been staying on the front page because I'm scared about the boomers. Jamuna Jaya, she's the only one.
I'm hurt.
Yeah, there was 126 people today, but I can't tell if they were all criminals.
Is that for real? We had 126?
126, maybe 26 criminals.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for everybody for joining us. We see it for Sweet Baby Krishna tonight. There, Amy Steller's dancing. She's got it going in the kitchen or sound asleep. She's got on and off. There's nothing in between with her. Krishna Balaji. There we go. Katie Bell, Zoe Archer, an essential worker. Come on, Coach Carla. Let's see what you're doing. Come on, Paramatma. What are you in meditation? Cut it out. What kind of meditation is that? Not in my village. No one meditates like that in my village. Come on, Sachi. Bringing the whole family in. I bet the boomers would love this. They must look at this like, what are they doing? This is like no other Zoom. This is like no other Zoom meeting ever. This makes no material sense. It's 5 a.m. I'm experiencing those bhavas right now. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai.